Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. In this video, we're going to take a 10,000-foot look at marketing automation. And marketing automation is the process by which somebody submits a form on your website and an action is done. So let's take a look at this example. So in this overview, we have a form on your website, any page, it doesn't matter. Somebody submits that form and gets a thank you page. And I always recommend that when we do forms, you have a thank you page submission so that way the user knows that their form has been successfully submitted. And also it's something that you can track in Google Analytics or other software to know that the form has been submitted. So once the form is submitted, you need to perform an action with the data that was submitted via the form. And there's unlimited things you can do. The most frequent ones that we do are, for example, we'll send an internal notification that a form has been submitted. So somebody submits a form and we'll get an email that says, hi team, somebody submitted the contact form or somebody submitted the request a meeting form. So just we have an idea internally that something's going on. Something else that we could do is send an automated email to the person who submitted the form, which is a nice touch. Depends what we're doing. Let's say it's a contact form. So we'll send them an email that says, thank you so much for submitting the contact request. We'll be in touch. If you have any questions, you can reply to this email or blah, 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 blah. Or if you want to book a meeting, click here to book the meeting, on your own. And over here, let's say we were doing some kind of lead magnet where we want to send them an email with a prize. Well, that's what a lead magnet is. It's a prize with a PDF or some instructions. So for example, instead of this being a contact form, this could be a lead magnet form. It doesn't matter where it's So let's say it's our web hosting download lead magnet. Click here to download our web hosting ebook. So they click here. What action are we going to perform with the data? Well, I'd like to send us an internal notification. Hey team, somebody submitted the website hosting ebook download request. So we're going to just let you know, team, internally. Now, but you can also send an automated email, which you want to do to the person that says, hi person, thank you so much for your interest, and here is your download email. Click here to download the download, or click here to access your download. And then from there, they can access their download. Or another thing that you could do is you can send an automated email series. And this is what you want to do with your automation. Sometimes you just want to send a single email that says thank you. Sometimes you want to send an email that says, thank you, here's your download. Sometimes you want to send a series of emails. Let's say this form said, in this 3 email series, we're going to teach you how to make spaghetti. And so click here to download that series. So they click here. What action are we going to do? Well, personally, I want to send us an email notification internally. Hi team, someone submitted the how to make spaghetti email form. And then we'll send them an automated email that says, hi person, thank you so much for your interest in our spaghetti recipe and whatnot. And so here's the email here are the emails that you requested. And then through our automation software, instead of sending a one-off email, we'll be in touch, or a one-off email, thank you, here's your download, or whatnot, we're gonna send a number of emails. And they expect it. So here's email number 1, which we send is here's whatever, email number 2, email number 3. So you can get a lot more complicated with your automations, and that's one of the beauties of marketing automation is that we can do drip campaigns, automation campaigns, all sorts of things. But from a big picture perspective, you have a form, a thank you page on your website, and then we perform an action. And I always like to have, like I said, a side action here internally that anytime any form is submitted, I want to know. So I just want to have a heads up that we had a form submission. But we can certainly, so what kind of email then are we going to send? A one-off email or a series of emails? And you can mix and match, it doesn't matter. But that's the overview of the process. Now let's talk about how we get a form on your website. Generally speaking, you're going to use some type of software to help you get the form on the website. In the old days, we would use HTML and JavaScript and code forms. These days, it's really not that practical. It's doable because really the concern on any kind of form is validation, meaning that if you ask for first name, last name, you want to make sure someone's not typing in numbers. Or if you ask for a phone number, someone's not actually writing out NINE, SEVEN. So it's easy to do in JavaScript. It's easy to do in the code, but there's just no reason to do that anymore. So there's software such as, and again, your preference will vary, Kit, Drip, ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, MailChimp, Incharge. All of these programs will allow you to make a form in the program, and they give you code that goes on the website. And the beauty of that is that if you are using something like Kit, for example, you go into Kit, you create the form, they will give you code. You put that code, right here on your website, and then when someone submits that form, obviously we send them to a thank you page, but then you can use Kit. Kit knows about that person. So now we can use Kit to do any of these tasks that we need. Same thing here. If we wanted to use ActiveCampaign, which I used for years, same thing. ActiveCampaign will give you a form. You set up the form on ActiveCampaign. I want the first name, the last name. I want a drop down of, how many years have you been using XYZ software, and what type of business are you, and your phone number. Is the phone number required, not required? So all of these programs can do that. They give you the code, you paste it on your website. And again, then you'll use ActiveCampaign to do all of these things. So it doesn't really matter, but the concept is that you have a form, thank you, and then you perform an action. And instead of doing your own forms by hand, I recommend you use software such as something here or anything that works for you. Generate the form, they give you the code, it goes on your website. And now what you have is you've got it where something like Kit, Drip, ActiveCampaign knows about your form, and you can use that software to do any of these tasks. One of the big questions you have to answer and decide for yourself is what software are you going to use for the forms and for the marketing automation. It's called automation because all of this happens automatically, in the sense that if someone submits a contact form, I don't want to have to get an email that someone submitted the form, and then I have to go into my email program and send someone an email. Hi, David, thank you so much for submitting the email, blah, 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 blah. Or, thank you, David, here's your download. Oh, where is that link again? So it's called automation because you set these up ahead of time in Kit, in ActiveCampaign, HubSpot, whatever you want. And once this action in the form is submitted, it happens automatically. So that's why it's called marketing automation. So we have the form on our website, and now let's talk about what software are you going to use for the forms and for marketing automation. And this is a big deal. And the reason is because some software products have forms and marketing built in. So if you use Kit, what you can do with Kit or Drip or ActiveCampaign is you can use the software to create a form like we talked about above. And then that form, when someone submits that form, Drip will know about it, Kit will know about it. So coming back over here, let's say this is a Drip form, someone submits the form, and then automatically Drip knows about it, that someone submitted the form, and we can do whatever actions we need. Now, what happens though if you have a form that doesn't have any automation software? So for example, JotForm. JotForm makes really cool forms, so you can do a lot of things with JotForm forms. But with JotForm is just the form. So if you use JotForm, it's going to give you the code, and that's it. So what happens here? You have the JotForm form, you have your thank you page, now the form is submitted, what happens? So how do we get the JotForm form to get some of these actions done? And the way you would do that is a direct integration or Zapier. A direct integration means JotForm knows that its business is forms, but it also knows that it wants you to be able to use these forms with other software. So they might have a direct integration, meaning that in the JotForm software, you set up the form like you normally would, and you put the code on your website like you normally would, and there are integrations where JotForm, you say to JotForm, listen, JotForm says, hey, I know that we just do forms, but we can do it so that if you want to use Kit, we'll connect right to Kit. Or if you want to use Drip, so that's a direct integration, meaning that so we have a JotForm form, it gets submitted, and then we've said to JotForm ahead of time, JotForm, I want to use Kit, or I want to use ActiveCampaign, or I want to use whatever, and then JotForm will push that information into Kit, or whatever software that you're using. One of the things that we do is we use HubSpot. And I love HubSpot forms. I like their CRM, but their marketing automation, which is fabulous, is also obscenely expensive. So I want to use the HubSpot CRM. I want to use their forms, but I just don't find the value in paying that much money a month for their automation. So what can we do? Well, does JotForm have an integration to HubSpot? Nope. Or sometimes you'll find with some of the software, it's very expensive. So JotForm might have a free integration to Kit and Drip and ActiveCampaign, but a paid one for HubSpot or Salesforce, for example. So what we do in our case is we use HubSpot Forms. That's where there's a star there, and we use Zapier. Zapier is a product. There's Zapier, there's Make, and what it does is it lets one piece of software talk to another piece of software. And so JotForm, let's say, does not have an integration with HubSpot. I don't know, I'm making that up. But if I wanted to use HubSpot, you could look up in Zapier and say, well, Zapier can talk to JotForm and Zapier can talk to HubSpot, so the two of them can make a connection. So what we do actually is we use a HubSpot form, and when the HubSpot form is submitted, it goes to Zapier. And I'm going to show you an example of that below. But basically, we are using, in one of our examples, Drip for our marketing automation. Doesn't really matter. The idea is that if HubSpot can't talk to Drip naturally, a direct integration, we use Zapier, whatever you want to call it. So someone submits a HubSpot form on our website, then it goes to Zapier, which is in here. I'll show you a diagram below. And then Zapier says it's going to go to Drip, ActiveCampaign, whatever we want. So let's now take a look at scenario one. Scenario one is when you have a form that's integrated with the marketing automation software, like Kit, Drip, ActiveCampaign, something like that. So here's a form, and that form is from Kit or Drip or ActiveCampaign, and someone submits the form, gets a thank you. Now we perform an action with the data submitted via the form, and all of this happens, for example, this is all set up in Kit or in Drip or in ActiveCampaign, et cetera, et cetera. Scenario two is what happens if the form is not integrated with your marketing automation software. So our example, we use HubSpot forms. Someone submits the form. HubSpot is not going to talk directly. For example, we like to use Incharge.io, but HubSpot will not talk to Incharge.io unless you're on their crazy expensive plan. And we just, again, I don't mind spending money if there's a value in something that we need. I just don't find the value in that right now. So we have a HubSpot form. It goes to thank you. So we use Zapier because Zapier will let HubSpot talk to Incharge. So Zapier will say, here's a form that HubSpot was submitted via HubSpot on our website, and please send that information over to Incharge. And once that happens, Incharge can then perform an action, and here we go again, right? So all of this happens on Incharge. So the question for you is, what type of software do you need? Do you need an integrated form? Do you not? For most people, integrated forms, meaning that you're using marketing automation, all this built in, works for a lot of people. Again, when we had a huge discount on HubSpot many years ago, we used it. We used a HubSpot form and then all this in HubSpot, and it's great having one thing under the hood. It just became too expensive, and again, the value wasn't there. Since I still like parts of it, we use the HubSpot form, and we use Zapier to connect HubSpot to Incharge. The last thing I want to talk about is triggers, meaning how do we kick off the actions below? So we know we have a form, we have a thank you page, and then once this form is submitted, something happens. And before we looked at it like this, we went kind of around, and we said, okay, form is submitted, and now we perform an action. However, there's a step in between, because somewhere in here, Well, let's say this is Kit, for example, or Drip or ActiveCampaign. It doesn't matter. When we set up this workflow, this thank you will be in touch email, we've told, and let's stick with Kit, we've told Kit that if somebody submits this form, keep an eye out for this form. If someone submits this form, then send this email. Or here's our download, our hosting. If someone submits our hosting ebook request form, send them this. So that's all set up ahead of time in Kit or Drip or whatever. And so Kit has these workflows or automations, what we call them, and they are kind of running and looking for a form submission. So Kit, if you see this form submission, do this. If you see this form submission, do that. If you see this form submission, do this. Something else you can do is a tag, which is above the scope of this video, but a tag is another way to start something. And if you have a form that doesn't necessarily talk to the automation software directly, like we said before, in our situation, we have a HubSpot form. That form gets submitted. Thank you very much. And then once that's done, Zapier is going to say, hey, someone submitted this HubSpot form. I am now going to tell the automation software, in this case, Incharge.io, to do something. And in Incharge, it looks for that. For example, we might use a tag. And it might say, well, if a user is added to Incharge.io and the tag says contact form submitted, then it will submit this thank you will be in touch email. So we would set this up that here's HubSpot, the form is submitted, and Zapier says, hey, if someone submits this HubSpot form, I want you now to go into Incharge, create a user with that information, John Doe, and put a tag on that user that says contact form submission. And then as soon as Incharge says, oh, contact form submission, it's going to know to send this email. And if we did the same thing with our hosting ebook download, someone submits this form and it's a form submission, Zapier is then going to say, oh, we have someone submitting this this website hosting ebook form. So let's make that tag ebook form, whatever. Hosting form is the tag. And then now Incharge knows, oh, if I see someone with the tag hosting form, I need to send them, this email. And so that's where Zapier would take the place of a direct integration in saying, hey, we got a form, and now I want you to start one of these actions. So I know that's a lot of information, and it seems overwhelming now, and it is. But you will do it more and more and more, and you will eventually, it'll be like second nature to you. The most important thing to understand is that in general, if you understand how one of these software programs work, or conceptually how this works, that's really the key. Because we're using Kit or Drip or any of these products, the concepts are the same. And the concepts are always going to be form, then you perform an action, and what action do you want? How you specifically, write the emails in Kit versus MailChimp or HubSpot or whatever, once you've done it with one, you've done it with the other. But the concept to understand really is that you have a form, you then perform an action with the data submitted with the form, and then that action occurs in some kind of marketing automation software. So that wraps it up for our marketing automation overview from 10,000 feet. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the like button, and any comments, please pop them below, and I'll be happy to answer them.